On Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, one of the great concert events of the season will occur at Carnegie Hall. Grace Bumbry, Shirley Verrett will be together, and the program honors Marian Anderson on her 80th birthday. And so before we talk to these two wonderful ladies of opera and song, let's listen to the wonderful Marian Anderson. Now, with great honor, pleasure, delight, and joy, I welcome Grace Bumbry, Shirley Verrett. Folks,
Thank you very much.
welcome, good morning. Before we talk about your concert, let's talk just very briefly about Marian Anderson and what she has meant in your life, lives.
We laugh because
Well,
yes.
since you took it earlier
Yes,
this
you
morning,
do it.
let me take the line this time.
Well, yeah, you guys did an interview already. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
we did.
part of
That's
all
why we laugh.
secondhand, huh?
Well, I think that Marian Anderson was, for me, a very great inspiration because as a very small child, my mother took me always to the Anderson concerts. I mean, if we went to any concert at all that season, it was the Anderson concert. And I remember going back, I can see myself now, as a matter of fact, going backstage, seeing Marian Anderson and looking up at her with big eyes, maybe with my big eyes, you know, in great awe of this woman. I remember seeing those beautiful red fingernails of hers. I mean, that stood out more than anything else except for that wonderful voice. And I was just always mesmerized by her sound, by her rapport with the audience. And I wanted to be like Marian Anderson. I always wanted to be a recitalist first. And it was later, actually, through Madame Lehmann that I got into the opera. But I wanted to be like Marian Anderson.
So that really was an impetus to your career.
Absolutely.
Well,
Shirley,
that's
how about you?
just as we did this morning. It's I can just it's a ditto again, and it's interesting. It really is, Grace. Very interesting because that was my first hope, was to be like this ideal, this fantastic ideal. But also starting out with recitals, and of course mine was because of religious kind of background that started that kind of thing, and I didn't even think about opera. But going to all of the recitals, and Miss Anderson's was, you know, always right there top. As you said, if you went nowhere else during the season, I was taken to hear her.
Would you say that this inspirational quality came from the purely musical gifts and the personality that she had, or because of the fact that this was a black artist who was fully received?
I would say both.
Well, it has to be both. I mean, for us, I think it would have to be both. And I would think with other people, with other races, it possibly would be the inspirational thing mostly. But for us, I think it would have to be both. I mean, you can't overlook the fact that we are blind.
She was the
and she was the
representative,
she
you see.
was.
Yeah.
She was that.
It's so hard for us to realize how short a time it has been when there was such
Yes, I was
walls
just thinking about
that
that.
were impenetrable, or so it seemed.
Exactly. She was. My husband always says something like, thinks of her as the Statue of Liberty. Now, it can be for all, but it's for the blacks. We looked at her. I mean, this was a sign of liberty and freedom. That's the way I think about it.
Quite a story. Now, tell us about your concert, Carnegie Hall, Sunday afternoon. And
Yes.
Whose bright idea was this? Grace?
Well, I think the
Grace, take that.
idea came actually through Herbert Breslin,
Yes.
out of necessity more than anything else, because he had both Shirley and me as artists on his list, as you know, as press agent, and so what do you do with two singers of this category?
And what a
So
great idea.
And the idea that we both have sung both mezzo and are singing soprano repertoire, so there are no other two singers who can give a concert like this one. So he approached me with the idea, he approached Shirley with the idea, and the next thing we knew, we were on.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, all of the wonderful things that have come out of this I always call it this kind of thinking, creative thinking.
It is.
Because it's not enough used in our business, or any business, really. And he had this idea, and from this idea, there's always another idea. And then,
Well,
yes.
Shirley, what was that genesis then? What What are
Well,
these ideas that have come forth?
Well,
What has happened?
no, I'm speaking totally about the concert on Sunday,
but I mean,
and
what has-
from that came the idea from Stuart
Walker.
about tying it into Marian Anderson, this
Because
great
we're both
lady's birthday,
recipients.
because we're also recipients. And you see how what I'm saying is one idea and it piggybacks on another, and I think it's so fantastic.
What
Couldn't be greater, you know, that
That's
kind of thing,
true.
and makes us very happy. I know.
and how have you shaped the program? First of all, have you found things to do together?
Oh, surely. That's the whole. Well, most of it is duets, right? We do more duets than anything else. Well, yes.
Well, it sort of evens out, doesn't it?
It's evened out. Yes.
Should I tell you the
Yes,
program?
Yes,
Please,
yes,
go on.
please do, please do.
Well, we start off the vocal section with Gioconda duet. Shirley sings the Gioconda. I sing the Laura because I've already sung Gioconda here in New York and she has not. So I acquiesce, you see. Let her have the Gioconda. I'm sure she's going to be beautiful. And then we go into each an aria. Shirley starts off with the Macbeth.
Letter aria.
The letter aria, Venita Fretta. And then I do the two-cane vocal from La Vestale. And then we go into Anna Bolena, the duet, the prison scene duet. And I do the Anna and Shirley does the Jane Seymour only because she's already done the Jane Seymour.
On
you see.
recording,
So
you see,
rather than having her learn something new,
Yeah.
we decided, good, since I must learn one or the other, I'll just learn the Anna. And because I really find that Anna and Jane Seymour are really both sopranos.
Oh, they are.
I absolutely,
Most of that
definitely find
repertoire
so.
is, you know, like that. With
Especially the way you sing it. I mean,
No.
really, you put all those fabulous high notes in there.
Well, you know,
Why
it's
not?
that's a
You
part of
haven't.
it. No, it's a part of it.
Sure.
Yes. And this
And
is true,
you
of
wanna take
course.
the second half?
No, that's all right. Go on.
second
Continue.
half-
I'm enjoying
What's
it.
the second half, we get the Aida duet, Aida Amneris, the boudoir scene. Shirley is the Aida, I am the Amneris. And then I do the aria from Adriana Lecouvreur, Io son Lumilancella. And Shirley does Ave Maria and Salce from Otello. And then we ended with the Norma duet. Well, it's actually the Scena, isn't it?
Yeah.
We start off with Mi chiamo Norma. Then we go on to the Mira Norma, and then we ended with De Conte, no?
Yes, that's right. Which bleeds into, you know, the final wonderful,
The final
rousing.
rousing cabaret.
So that's quite.
It's
that's
quite a
an
program, I
afternoon.
think. Yes, it
You
is.
both
It's
have
a
tackled
long
lot.
afternoon,
Yes.
too.
But I think very, very interesting, don't you?
Oh, absolutely,
interesting
absolutely.
program.
I think it'll fly by, actually, because
Yes.
it's even though it seems a long program, it's an interesting program.
Yes, it is.
The obvious question, how has it been to work with each other? How has it been to put these duets together and actually sing together for the first time?
Fine. Wonderful.
Actually, surprisingly good.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
people always, everybody thought, yeah, well, they're gonna be tearing each other's hairs out, you know.
Well, I know that's the press is, I
But
think,
you know,
very
it's-
disappointed that you
Mind
are.
you, I must say, well, there's a certain tension because we both have a lot of temperament, you know. So one has to give a little bit here, she gives a little bit there, I give a little bit there, and Eve Crawler gives a little bit there.
And hopefully, and I'm sure, it will be a wonderful concert on Sunday.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But this happens all the time. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but we won't go into that now.
Why not?
No,
Why
we
not?
won't go into it.
Come
well,
on,
Shirley,
No.
there is a number of artists have spoken of the advantages of
Yes.
competition. I think it was Paul Plishka who was talking about the fact that, listen, when you have another basso on there who's
No, but
really
this is
singing
it.
around
Bring
you.
your very best.
Well, this is, of course, and this only is the thing that one is dealing with. But sometimes people want to put, you know, they like that idea of fights going on all the time and people not even speaking to each other, you know, and I'm sure it has happened. It has happened.
Oh, we
But,
speak to each
we do speak with
Well,
we do
obviously.
speak.
And all right, on that note, let us adjourn to music and mind to play both of them, you know, one after the other.
It's a bit too long.
It's a bit too long. Well, actually, I was telling you when I came in, what I really wanted to do with the Don Fatale is to do the first half of one of you and the second half
Why
of the
don't
other
you?
one.
Why don't you?
Well, maybe we'll end that way. I would really, maybe.
Okay.
then nobody will talk to me. You see, that'll be all set. No, but let's begin with Sappho. Anything you want to say, Shirley, before we hear the aria?
Well, I don't know. It's one of the arias that I like very, very much.
It's very seldom sung.
And it's not sung, you know. I never hear it.
Well,
And I think you only hear it most of the time when you play recordings.
I think
And that kind of thing. I hope the recording is still in good repair because it is an old recording.
well, we'll find out.
We'll
right
find
now.
out. But otherwise, I love it.
Aria, beautiful performance. Omalir Immortel from Sappho of Gounod. Shirley Verrett singing with Georges Pret conducting. Shirley Verrett, together with Grace Bumbry, our guest today in the listening room, and we are looking ahead to their Carnegie Hall get-together Sunday afternoon at 3. Although while I'm giving you the information, I don't know, the place is sold out to the rafters and you can't get close to it. But I suggested already that they have a repeat show at 5 o'clock, but that's been vetoed, but maybe on another occasion.
I love the way you call it a get-together.
The get-together.
Yeah, sure. I mean, after all, this is just a matter of continuing our
sure.
discussions.
The
and,
discussion right on the
On
stage.
stage, absolutely, absolutely. By the way, a listener has called wondering if Marian Anderson will be there on Sunday. Anybody know?
Yes.
Exactly, yes.
She will.
Going to-
How wonderful.
Every intention is that she will be
Yeah.
there.
Terrific. All right, we have some announcements to take care of, and they're all about concerts and other events in Bunbury. Our welcome guests today in the listening room. And I wanted to ask you both, when you listen to another artist do a piece that you do, so you have studied and thought and carefully analyzed and so on and so forth, and obviously it's different because everyone will be different. Can you enjoy it, or do you keep running through your mind, well, let's see, I do this way, and therefore, and kind of listen, can you listen
Yeah.
musically, or do you have to listen analytically?
Well,
No, go ahead.
Shirley?
no, I think about that quite often, and I think what I try to do is say, as you just said, that everyone is different, and what was going on in another artist's mind is that person saw the music at that particular moment, and with that person's own equipment, it's a different thing, and it's quite exciting when this happens, you know, because you find out that there is more than one way to do something.
So you don't grit your teeth and say,
No,
for heaven's
I
sakes,
don't.
what-
Not no, unless you know
No,
you
I mean,
happen to be
assuming
enough
it's
of.
good.
If it's a good artist, of course not. You sit there and you say, well, that's another approach.
Well, I find that if they do something different, that I begin to wonder, why did they do it? I mean, really quite analytically, why did they do it that way? And I get my score out,
Yeah.
and I begin to figure out now, is it because there's a crescendo here or a decrescendo there, or is it because of the way the line is written, or what? Because, as Shirley said, there's always another way of doing a thing. There's no one interpretation. As long as there are two persons, there are going to be two different interpretations. There are many things that will be similar, without saying, but there are also things that will be quite different, and I find that also terribly interesting.
I was going to say something else on that point too. I think I started thinking and feeling this way early on at school at Juilliard, because you know when you're in music school you have so many, you mustn't do this and this is not allowed, and then you start reading the biographies and about the composers and so forth, and you read about Brahms and people performing his music and doing a piano where there was a forte and vice versa and that kind of thing, and him accepting it. Then when I met Stravinsky, to make this very short, I didn't mean to go on so long, but this made it really come to my mind when I was doing Yocasta, and I had been taught, you know, at Juilliard, or most music schools say, this is contemporary music and it has to be sung in this way. And I looked at the music, and the music to me, when you looked at it, you say, but how can you sing this so detached? Because the phrasing is so warm and so marvelous, this sinuous kind of, this wonderful line. So I went to rehearsal, and I spoke with a person who was Mr. Stravinsky's associate, and I said, look, I don't know how this is going to be, but before I go with the great man, I would like to know if what I have done is incorrect or not, because I have been told that, you know, when you sing contemporary music, that this and this and that. And I sang it. He said, sing it. I finished. And when I finished, he said, that's exactly, he said, don't change a thing. And one comment that he made was, he said, you know, Maestro always said, made these markings for idiots. Now, I don't go that far. No, I really don't go that far because there are times that you really do need markings and so on and so forth. But I feel that if inside you there is an integrity, there is a musicianship, a basic musicianship, you have the technique and so forth, with that, you can go on and do music in many different ways, as long as it doesn't go outside of a certain kind of bound. And if you're intelligent enough, it will never do that. So therefore, as Grace was also saying, you listen and sometimes you do want to check and find out why. But after that, you say, but you know, there's another road, and it's something to think about sometimes.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you get another idea.
Grace, you said you will go back to the score and look. If you see something in the score that doesn't jibe with your emotional reaction to the piece, how free do you feel about changing a forte to something else, or the tempo, or the elasticity of the phrase, or whatever it might be?
I 99% of the time will not change it.
You will not.
No, because for me, that's a blueprint. And I'm supposed, my job really is to interpret that music the way he wrote it. I mean, that's my job. I'm not supposed to make any kind of changes. If there's some vocal problem on that particular night,
Oh, yes. Well,
then that's a different story.
No, that's not what
But
we mean.
basically, when I sit down to learn a piece of music, I learn it with every intention to sing it as that composer wrote it, as best I can.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. The other incident that I was talking about was just people who happen to do certain things. But I agree that it is. And as I said, it's as if you're reading a good book. I mean, it's all there. If it's a great composer, it is all there. And you try, as best we can, to follow the directions. If it's a piano, you sing piano. And if it's forte, you sing forte. And so
I mean, otherwise we do him an injustice. He's
And
he's taken all this time, and his great genius is being
it's
thrown out the
gone
window.
out the window. I think Mr. Leinsdorf, Maestro Leinsdorf, has written a book about this kind of thing.
Yes,
you know,
we had quite a discussion about it.
yeah, you know, and
Yeah.
trying to do what the composer wishes. And it's fair because, I mean, he's the man who wrote it. You should do it as he wrote it.
The only other side to that coin is, Shirley, as you implied before, a composer wants the music to sound to best advantage and is very rarely rigid about it.
It's true. And there is...
He's the one who's the most flexible of all in some
That's
ways.
exactly it. But you see, because we haven't... This is another thing that comes up a lot. People saying, Bach is supposed to be sung in only this way. You must stand away from it. Lieder cannot be sung. You must... Oh, no. You must change your voice to sing Lieder. To me, that is a lot of poppycock. Because Bach was a man who was married and had many children, and he wrote music. And if you are intelligent, I go back to that, if you have been trained musically and you have an innate kind of feeling about it, you cannot sing Bach as you would sing Puccini. There is no way.
Impossible.
So, you know, giving all of those things, I think music has to live. And what you're trying to do is to sell the public on, this music was just written. This is what you're trying to do within a contemporary audience. Singing Bach, you're trying to make them enjoy it as much as the people may have enjoyed it in those days.
Fascinating. All right, we are going to return to music, and Grace Bumbry, your turn this time.
Oh,
And we
good.
thought we would head back to Aida.
All right.
Oh, great.
Ritorno Vincitor from Aida. And this time, Grace Bumbry singing with the Berlin Opera Orchestra, Hans Löblein conducting. And our conversations with Grace and Shirley will continue. Grace Bumbry, Shirley Verrett, after our final announcements. Actually, we're going to take you on a weekend of concerts with Grace Bumbry and Shirley Verrett. I don't want to speak of it in the past tense because we have another 7 or 8 minutes yet to go, and I'm very delighted about every one of them. I just wonder, having two such extraordinary artists here, what you feel about the future of the recital programs. We've heard so many kind of laments about the fact that there are fewer and fewer vocal programs, that is recitals, art song programs, leader evenings, and so on. What do you think? Is there a future for this, Shirley?
I think there is a future for it, but there are certain things that people have to do. I think it goes back to when I first started some years ago, and I would see recitalists. I'm only speaking now of the singing part of it now. And maybe Grace would like to take it from there. And I used to go and people would say, oh, that was such a boring recital, so forth. And then I started wondering why. And one thing that I had found that many times the singers would take on the road, they would just go out to the town or the city and pick up an accompanist. Well, you cannot do a program this way. You have, it's ensemble. You have to have worked it out so well together that no matter what you do, your accompanist knows and will do something different on the night that you do something because he knows you so well, and vice versa. And this is one reason. I also feel that there should be, and I use this again, creative thinking at this particular time in our life in programming. Also from the manager's standpoint of the same kind of thing, and I am going to give Breslin Herbert a very wonderful compliment, I hope anyway, is that kind of thinking of ideas that will be interesting to the public and not just another concert, but based on something. Because we are living in a time, now, you know, we call it very great depression or recession, they're calling it these days. And sometimes the first thing that people stop buying will be tickets. Now, I won't go any farther than that. There are certain things that are happening also on the stages, but I'll let Grace go on from that. I've said my two little points, but there are so many more reasons why.
But I certainly agree, but I would like to emphasize the fact that a great deal of the reason has to do with the way in which one programs a recital program.
That's it.
If you make a boring program, of course they're going to come away displeased. But if you try to put as much variety into a program, where there's light moments and there are dramatic moments and there are moments that are a bit sad, all those things go to make a program, and it also goes to that they go to make a person as well. They see all sides of that particular singer.
So it's up to the artists,
it's up to the artists,
as
a
well
great
as the
deal.
managers and other people.
I think so. And I knew that you would say something like that, Grace, and I'm very happy because I remember from the beginning, a game I was talking about at the beginning, where you were taught that you had to begin with Baroque and go on down. I started from my days at Juilliard, and I started thinking, why? Why? I suppose always a kind of a rebel in a certain sense, but always saying, why do you have to do it that way? Why not program put a program as you feel that it's going to come out better for an audience? If it means coming out and sing Spanish songs first, why not? If the program is interesting enough and follows. And so that's a part of what you just
Getting
saying.
away from the predictability also is...
Yeah, it can be predictable as long as Grace says, it has a variety and so forth. You know, people don't want to sit down and be bored all night. At least they won't accept it from American artists. They may accept it from people, and I'm not putting because there are great recitalists who come from Europe, Bishop Dieskau and so forth, marvelous and wonderful. But sometimes as Americans, we have something else that we have to overcome because people have not thought that maybe we can really be leader singers, quote unquote.
Yes.
And so we've got to...
All right, we have time for one last piece of music, and it is going to be, as I threatened before, to attempt, for the first time, a duet on Odon Fatale, and we will hear Shirley Verrett and Grace Bumbry.
In that order?
In that order.
Okay.
And Odon Fatale with Shirley Verrett singing, and then you guys were so busy talking you didn't even notice when we switched over to Grace Bumbry's recording, and it worked out pretty well.
It really did.
It did.
Listen, folks, this has been a beautiful and memorable hour for me. I am really thrilled that you would come and, just a few days ahead of the program, come down here to QXR and talk with me. It's a great joy, great pleasure, and I love you both.
Same here.
It's been a wonderful visit.
It has been great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I don't know how your TV interview went this morning, but I couldn't have been fresher and more fun than this hour has been. So again, great thanks to you both.
You.
And if you would like to go down to Carnegie Hall and hang out and see if by some remote chance somebody is turning back a ticket, you can try. It's 3 o'clock on Sunday. Are they going to record it by any chance? Do you know?
I don't think
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Go back and tell Herb Breslin he should get out of recording her. That's...
Well, I don't know what the reason is, but I would have thought it would really be something to
Yes.
to record.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
And Opus 2
They'll be
coming
sorry
up one of
after.
these days?
Opus 2 will come up, yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, now that you know how easy it is.
Yeah.
All right. We have regretfully close out this hour, but I'm delighted that we will continue our emphasis on vocal music tomorrow. We're going to have 3 singers tomorrow, 3 sopranos, you see.
How can you stand
Well,
it?
actually, one is a mezzo, that doesn't count. But anyway, I'm very pleased because Ned Rorem will be joining us. Of course, Ned has written many, many glorious songs.